Baby, 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 it's Survivor season. I know that's right. The best time of the year, in my opinion. We are almost there to Survivor 45, and I thought we'd celebrate the introduction to the new season by my silly little self breaking down every other introduction to every other season. Yeah, I'm ranking every premiere episode in Survivor US history, number 44 all the way down to my number 1. This has been something I've actually wanted to do for a while now. I've rewatched these episodes plenty of times, and I felt like this right now was the right time to release this video, so I'm here to deliver. My criteria for these rankings are pretty simple. It's my entertainment. This isn't objective by any means. You are almost certainly gonna hate my ranking. But please, if you're gonna laugh at me in the comments, just laugh with me, then at me. I'm not here to stall any more of your time. Let's begin my breakdown of my biggest challenge I've done so far on this channel as I rank every single premiere in the history of Survivor. Number 44 is a season that I haven't rewatched in a long time, and when I did come back to watch this premiere, it didn't make me want to watch it anytime soon. It's Survivor Nicaragua, Young at Heart. I don't know, I genuinely just don't have a lot to say about this episode. They divided the tribes by young and old, Medallion of Power exists, and nothing else really happens besides Wendy Jo going crazy and basically digging herself up in her grave as she waves goodbye. And as some people may think that's something, I kind of cringed at it more than I enjoyed watching it, so I just don't care about this episode, and it could have put me asleep. I'm not going to talk about it any longer. It's at the bottom of the list. Let's move on. Number 43 is another snooze fest that gets saved by one character that I didn't cringe at and actually enjoyed. It's Survivor Tocantins. Let's get rid of the weak players before we even start. Sandy.
I'm pissed. I am so pissed.
Is the only thing that made this premiere worth anything. The tribes vote off the quote-unquote perceived weakest members in Sandy and Sierra right away. And again, not a lot is happening that I enjoy unless your name is Sandy. I mean, this woman is a psychopath. Calls Jalapao jalapeno and has not one clue what a pace is, let alone 10 paces. And after all of that, Carolina is so bad at Survivor that they vote her out over Sandy. But again, I was very bored for about 80-85% of this premiere. It's gonna be at number 43. Now, I'm not sure if this is controversial, but this again will be an episode that is carried by one character and was ranked last after my first watch through, but I couldn't do that to disrespect this one person. It's the premiere of Survivor Panama, The First Exile. Obviously, this is Cirie Field's TV debut, and she is great here, somehow pulling off that blindside of Timbertina, who was literally mourning the death of her son. Like, oh my god. Timbertina should have been the last person in consideration of being voted out of the older women's tribe, yet Cirie showed she's a force to be reckoned with, even if she's afraid of leaves. But like most of the premieres that are going to rank pretty low here, aside from Cirie, I'm extremely bored. Exile Island exists, a 4-tribe start. Unless it's Shane Powers talking about not being able to smoke or Cirie existing, I did not enjoy watching this episode. Number 41 is a premiere that had so much happening, yet nothing happening at the exact same time. It's Survivor Palau. This has never happened before. First of all, that absolute bullshit of a twist that we saw at the beginning, like justice for Jonathan and Wanda. They maybe would have been really bad players, but what in the hell are you doing putting these poor people through all of that casting, putting them on the island, and then sending them home a day later? The worst twist ever. Do not at me again, especially because they've never been given a second chance at all. But afterwards, both tribes are set to stay on the same beach, which should have been super interesting if they showed any of it. It lasted a total of like 2 minutes on the show. Wasted potential that just kind of pissed me off. Aside from a bullshit twist, a very poor job at time management, and Jolanda boot that doesn't move me, 3 people went home in a premiere I just don't really care for. It's only not last because there's actual stuff going on, but trust me, this is not that good. Number 40 is a season I really want to like, and a premiere, again, I just really want to like. But I can't ignore the fact that it just feels outdated and not that fun to watch. All the way back in season 2, the Australian outback, Stranded. There's just no spark with this episode. The cast is obviously iconic. Deb wants to make a rock shelter. Colby, thankful of 2 things. Thankful he's alive and thankful he's a Texan is something that's so stupid I love it. But aside from that, it's kind of boring. I know that this cast does bring it later on in the season, but I don't think these iconic moments or iconic things are shown in this premiere, leaving me with a predictable Deb boot and just kind of shrugging my shoulders as we move on to number 39.
Wake up in the morning, there's 2 things I'm thankful for. I'm thankful I'm alive, and I'm thankful I'm a Texan.
I think I have a little soft spot for number 39, but I can't justify ranking it any higher than at 39. It's Survivor Vanuatu. They came at us with spears. I mean, the opening ritual that they have is one of the craziest things I've seen on Survivor, but until we get to the immunity challenge, I didn't have much enjoyment watching. The blind walk to camp was boring. The guys versus girls trope was whatever. But the real highlight to me is the immunity challenge, because Chris absolutely blows the balance beams and single-handedly lost the challenge for the men. I don't know, it's so funny to see him fail. And it's even funnier that he doesn't go home after that. Pretty much anybody who isn't a young and fit guy come together and decide they are going to control the tribe. And they vote out Brooke in a 5-3-1 vote. It's a crazy and chaotic vote at the first vote off, but they just didn't show it. This could have been so much higher because of how insane the vote is. The fact that Chris somehow stays after all of that. But they didn't show what actually happened, which just doesn't give you the feeling that this vote should have given you, which is sad. I want to rank this so much higher, but it's going to be stuck here at number 39. A season I do not enjoy talking about, and this premiere is higher than I'd want to put it, but it's fine. It's season 39, Island of the Idols. I vote you out, and that's it. I like the idea of no marooning. They just send the tribes to their beaches, give us a lot more time for character dynamics. And then I think because of that, Janet and Elaine really shine this episode, especially Elaine. But even after all of that, the you-know-who stuff still exists. And it all started here at the premiere, which is just so gross and kind of sets me back into reality of like, yeah, this is the season with you-know-who in it. And the rest is pretty tame. Elizabeth is the first victim of Island of the Idols with Rob and Sandra, and Ronnie gets voted out. Nothing to sneeze at. The episode is fine. I like the character moments we got from anybody not named you-know-who, but that does taint my vision every time I even think about this season, so it's not going to move any higher than number 38. An episode I wish was better because I adore this season, but the premiere episode was chaotic, but not in a good way. It's Survivor Guatemala. Big Trek, Big Trouble. First ever captain season, and I'll admit the Stephanie and Bobby John reveal was pretty cool. And then immediately sending the entire cast on an 11-mile race through the Guatemalan jungle is completely insane. Takes up literally 25 minutes of the episode and takes out pretty much every single guy to some kind of an injury. Just so much went on here. Even at Tribal, Judd making his presence known, talking about doing a damn backflip, man. And they vote out Jim because he's the old guy who literally tore his bicep. I leave this episode having no idea what just happened. And sometimes I like that, but here I think it was just too much. Yet not enough going on at the same time. It's chaos. That's all I can call this. Chaos. On to number 36, which is such an odd episode of the show. It's the premiere of Survivor Marquesas Back to the Beach. And this episode is carried by the absolute tomfoolery of the Mararamu guys. Peter Harkey over here talking about being holy, but with like actual holes in your body. Sean Rector is a constant mood forever and ever. Hunter is... Alright, Hunter's kind of a dud, but look, it's Boston Rob! And he makes up for it because it's his debut episode. And he definitely wasn't PG or good in any way, shape, or form, but at least he's interesting TV. At least Rob chasing the chicken was fun and not controversial in any way, so at least we can all agree on that one. Unfortunately though, anything outside of the Maramu guys was kind of boring and or forgettable. Meaning I literally have no notes on anything that didn't surround those 4 guys. It's the only reason it's not higher than number 36 here is because a good 3/4 of this cast didn't interest me this episode. Now for the episode I have the least amount of notes for, landing it pretty far down the list. It's Survivor Blood vs. Water's premiere. Blood is thicker than anything. I did think that the introduction was pretty fun with the day 1 vote outs, and Rupert switching spots with Laura is like a great idea to get your wife to actually be able to play Survivor. But boo, I do not want to see Laura play. Oh well, you win some, you lose some. Only other things of note were Brad and his like 4 with 5 equals out, and that's engraved into my mind forever, I swear to God. And then Marissa was absolutely robbed because Jervis was an ass after that immunity challenge. Couldn't really tell you a single thing that happens after that this episode. It's funny at some points, but just not notable.
4 with 9 equals out. But I'm sorry, yeah.
Speaking of not notable, number 34 is the premiere of Millennials vs. Gen X. May the best generation win. It's down this low for the same reason the last one was down this low. I have like no notes for this episode. The only things I took away from this were the Triforce with Taylor, Figgy, and Jay because they're young and hot. And then David Wright was great in his debut. Scared of the Bamboo,
I trust you, okay? I trust you.
and that's about all I got. It's not bad, but like the last episode, it's mostly forgettable, if anything. I think I finally realized why I ranked these episodes where I ranked them. We are into the real nothing premieres of the show, and that continues with Survivor Thailand, the importance of being eldest. All things considered, this is probably one of the better episodes of Thailand at least, so that's always fun. But what do you want me to say about this? John Raymond is an absolute trip, let me tell you. His pranks are... I don't even know what to call it, but somehow I did feel entertained and not terrible after watching this episode, so congrats on number 33, Thailand, I guess. God damn, I'm so bad at each of these intros for the reveals. Number 32 is Survivor Go Wrong. I'm a mental giant. This is the best of the episodes where I wasn't getting a lot from, and that might just be due to the cast being really solid and fun this premiere. Debbie is an absolute lunatic, and I love how crazy she is. I don't think I've physically cringed as much as I have watching the Jenny bug and her ear fiasco. That is borderline terrifying, and I would recommend not watching if you're queasy to any of that stuff. And then one of my favorite all-time first boots, Aquadump himself, Darnell, loses the goggles in the first challenge and gets voted out over Alicia somehow. It's hilarious. I do love me some Darnell, so that's always going to boost this episode. But overall, the episode is good, but not good enough to rank any higher than its season number. I think I've finally escaped the nothing premieres of the show, and here to talk about the episodes that have some good parts of them. And at number 31 is going to Survivor Fiji. Something cruel is about to happen real soon. And there were definitely good parts about this episode. I loved having all 19 players on the same beach to start off the season. Earl's King of Fiji moment. Yowman opening the box when all the buff guys fail at it. Dreams being dreams. Rocky being Rocky. And although the have and have not twist is one of the worst in the entire show's history, that immunity challenge to determine who gets to stay on the beach that they all just made was actually really engaging, and they did a good job at least getting me hooked into watching an immunity challenge. The only issue, really, the rest of the episode after this is a complete blur. Not much intrigue. Jessica goes home on some weird vote, and Earl gets voted for, which is the only reason he didn't get a perfect resume at the end of the season, so yeah, the ending really fumbled, but the beginning of this episode was actually pretty solid, so it's gonna be at number 31. Number 30 is entirely dependent on one person, and how you feel about that one person will dictate where you rank this episode, because we're moving to Survivor Samoa the Puppet Master. This is the episode that introduced us to Russell Hantz. And despite me thinking Russell Hantz sucks as a human being, he's completely fascinating television. The Dumbass Girl Alliance, lying about Hurricane Katrina, his German Shepherd, being a fireman just because he wants to lie, and then taking out Marisa because his ego was damaged, because she actually has a mind of her own. The only thing that kind of doesn't rank this too high, despite me thinking Russell was entertaining TV, is that this isn't my favorite Russell. He definitely makes an early impression, but there's something about it that just doesn't stand out too much to me, despite him hogging all the screen time, so that's the reason it's gonna be at number 30. This episode was carried by how much I laughed during the episode. It's Survivor San Juan del Sur, Suck It Up, and Survive.
You're about as mentally strong as that rock.
R.I.P. Keith Nail, by the way, but yeah, the episode is pretty standard. But I did laugh a lot during it, so it gets to number 21.9, basically just off of that. Jeremy versus Val's banter was fun. Keith versus Wes talking about losing the striker. And then everything about John Rocker was actually really interesting. Aside from that, meh. The rest of this is pretty standard, but it's the characters that do carry the day for me in this premiere. Number 28 takes us back to the Dark Ages. It's Survivor South Pacific's premiere, I Need Redemption. The Coach and Ozzy return season, Redemption Island, yada yada yada. Again, episode's pretty standard with some nice moments sprinkled throughout. Christine, Colin, Coach, and Ozzy, temporary players, will always be iconic. The challenge was really, really close, as were pretty much every challenge between these two tribes this season. What really ranks this episode this high is that tribal council. I loved Cochrane versus Semhar, two people who both know they are the targets, two people fighting for their lives to stay in the game, and two people who are being very, very messy when trying to stay alive. It's a very underrated tribal council, especially for it being the first one of the season. I mean, I love me some petty drama. It's gonna squeak up into number 28. Of all the episodes dominated by one person, this might just be my favorite. Survivor HHH, I'm not crazy, I'm confident, is number 27. The Alan Ball experience is bravo. Like, I couldn't give a damn about anything else that happens this episode. Alan Ball makes it. Not enough people talk about the scene where Alan literally makes JP strip down in the middle of the night to prove that he doesn't have an idol in his pants. That's not real. And then afterwards, he openly admits he literally has no idea if JP actually has an idol. Like, how do you not love this man? What else happened this episode? I don't care enough to think about it because Alan Ball delivered.
I'm not crazy. I'm confident.
Taking a trip back to a classic season of Survivor, number 26 is Survivor Africa, Question of Trust. And this might be one of the most surreal premieres to watch in my opinion. The early seasons are obviously vastly different from the modern seasons. It focuses so much more on the survival aspect. And with the cast being dropped in the middle of Africa with shitty river water and not much food, and not to mention a couple of, lions in the middle of the night. So I do think that the survival aspect, more than most seasons, was the most fun thing to watch in this episode. And then, of course, the best moment of the episode has to be Beans Gate. Not just because my name is Beans, I'm not that entitled, but the entire spectacle is great. The tribe turning on Clarence because Diane snitched on him about eating some of the beans with Diane is just peak old school Survivor television. The only reason this isn't higher is because the rest of the episode is kind of bleh. Shout out Frank for being the straightest straight man of all time.
What branch of service were you in? I was in the American branch. So freedom.
As much as Frank would absolutely hate part of my existence, he's still kind of funny. I don't know what else to tell you. Now we have an episode carried by the Tribal Council. Survivor Caramoan has arrived at number 25. Before we get to that Tribal Council, there are some little funny moments to throw in here. Like, the lack of reaction from any of the fans, except Sherry, always will make me laugh. They have no idea who these people are. Philip and all of his Philipisms are back in full swing. including Stealth R Us. And then, of course, I've always wondered if Queen Francesca ever ate that rock.
I am voted off first a second time. I will eat this rock.
Because the favorites are ruthless as hell. Francesca and Philip find themselves on opposite sides of the tribe again. They battle again, and once again, Philip wins the battle, and Francesca cements herself in Survivor history as being the only person to be voted out first twice. I'm still Team Francesca for Survivor third time's a charm, but I'll digress for now and leave this premiere as pretty solid. A season that I think I am much higher on than most people, as a pretty decent premiere that I'm probably much higher on than most people. It's Survivor Edge of Extinction. It smells like success. Of course, the 3 returning players and a loser of a human being come back, and I just think the dynamics of Mana are some of the best we've seen, especially this early into a season. The cherry on top has to be Reem Daly. One of my favorite first boots without a doubt. She's just such a great presence. Anything weird this tribe is doing, Reem just adds on to it tenfold and makes it so much better. And of course, Reem obviously carries tribal council as well. Like, she is so me if I was on the show. Don't feed me this BS, just keep it real. But they didn't keep it real, and Reem got booted first. This episode was very much enjoyable, so I'm not here to complain. It's at number 24.
Wentworth, didn't she get hurt today? I didn't get hurt today.
I'm finally here to talk about a new era season of Survivor. I guess my least favorite premiere of the new era, Survivor 43, Livin'. A big thing about the new era seasons is I think their premieres are more focused on introducing the characters to us, which is fine, but they also don't have any outstanding moments, and this would be the least notable of those. Character moments are definitely there for sure. Sammy's puzzle moment, Cody's butt tattoo, and that damn scene where like the shelter falls on Dwight, Justine makes the fire, and then the fire goes out all in one take is so underrated. I feel like more people need to talk about how hilarious that scene is. But the only other notable moments for me is Allie Gabler. After losing immunity, Gabler, with his idol he got from that stupid rock thing, publicly announces he will not be playing his idol. That's no fair to the rest of the team. He's going to decide to play his shot in the dark instead. I'm sorry, what? That's so chaotic, but a lot of fun at the same time. Nothing else really matters this episode though, so that's the reason it didn't quite lock into the top half. You're so close, 43. So close. We're halfway there, baby, and it feels kind of right that this season sits right into the top half. It's the first ever premiere, the first ever episode of Survivor, Survivor Borneo, The Marooning. I don't have another word for it than infamous. The episode that got the show off the ground, and the vibes were so much better than I remember. I thoroughly enjoyed watching these people just interact. Richard Hatch is fascinating. Rudy is iconic, without even trying.
I don't even know what MTV means, you know?
And you can't forget about the first player ever voted out of the game, Mrs. Sonia Christopher. There's nothing super exciting or anything like that in this premiere, but out of pure enjoyment, just sitting down and having a fun time watching people, this was great. I enjoyed it a lot.
Life is hell, but I'm swell.
Moving back to the oldest premiere still on the board, headed to the Amazon for Survivor, the Amazon, boys versus girls. I don't really know what to tell you. I enjoyed this a good bit. The tribes are divided men versus women. Or, I guess for this season, it's boys versus girls, because the guys are so cocky and misogynistic, which is a bad thing, except for the fact that they get their ass whooped by the girls during the immunity challenge. One of the most satisfying wins in Survivor, I'm not gonna lie to you. The big marking point I wanted to note was the introduction to Christy and her being deaf, which is such an insane thing, especially on Survivor. And it kind of puts it all full circle with Matt right now being the first deaf Big Brother player in the house. So I thought that was an interesting thing that I took note of. But to top off this dunking of these idiotic men, they go to tribal council, get served by Jeff, and talk about how hot the women are. 2003 reality TV men in a nutshell. And then the vote is also a good amount of fun. Ryan gets voted out 4 to 3 to 1, and he definitely sucks, so all is good. I definitely enjoyed this premiere. Into the top 20, dipping my toes back into the Dark Ages with Survivor, one world, 2 tribes, 1 camp, no rules. Once again, a tribe split down, men versus women. But this time these people are petty, like a genuine rivalry right off the bat, which I did enjoy. And then the twist of both tribes living on the same beach gave a lot of fun drama. The argument over the chicken, the argument over the fire, it's just showing that everyone here is petty and hypocritical, so yeah. If there's a downside to anything this episode, it's the entire Courtney ordeal. She ends up breaking her wrist during the immunity challenge, but it still brings drama because the men end the challenge right then and there and claim immunity. Like, I can't repeat it enough. I love the hatred that both tribes have for each other. And then at Tribal, Alicia and Christina get into it because Alicia hates Christina and kind of sucks as a person, so. Nobody else gets sent home, but seeing them go head to head at Tribal just to argue is funny as hell. Good episode, moving on. Just based on name alone, this has to be pretty high up there on the list, and it's a very interesting premiere at that. Survivor Cook Islands, I can forgive her, but I don't have to because she screwed with my chickens. What the hell is that name? Oh my god. Anyways, this is a very controversial premiere by production's decision to split the tribes by race, and that was definitely a choice. I'd be lying though if I said I wasn't glued to my screen watching some of these characters during the premiere. Cowboy is fascinating with his headache medicine strategy. And then Jonathan Penner is one of my personal all-time favorite survivors, and he's addicting to watch and listen to. And while I'm entirely in the camp that half of this cast of the season is boring and not that interesting to me, they do a good job by only focusing on the people that actually have a personality this episode, which keeps me hooked for at least a 1 episode ranking. This episode is really solid. I really do enjoy it. And it's got Sekou Bunch. How could you not love Sekou Bunch? Like, that alone has to boost this up. So, number 19, I think that's good. Have you ever wanted to have some alone time with Jeff? Welcome to Survivor 41, a new era.
It's been a while. I've missed you.
This was the return to Survivor, the longest hiatus in Survivor history between season 40 to season 41. And this was our introduction to the new era, which we are deep into at this point. Is it everything I could have hoped and dreamed for? No, of course not. But I really do enjoy watching this episode in particular. I think the opening mat chat, or boat chat, I guess, was one of my favorites. It was really cute. And the pull behind the curtains moment showing the camera crew and all of that was really wonderful. And that leads right into a fun opening challenge where Yase can't find their paddle to save their life.
Nothing up here, I promise.
And Luvu never unclipped their boat. It's so good, I can't lie. And I don't know, I think I just like this cast. They were fun to be introduced to us, and I really don't know what else to say. The UA Tribal Council was also crazy for a first vote, with whispering everywhere that ended up taking out Sarah of all people. And of course, the last thing I will leave you off with, the Shantham. I swear I didn't do this on purpose, but these 2 seasons just can't seem to escape each other. Number 17 is Survivor 42. Feels like a roller coaster. I'm sorry, but what do you want me to do? These premieres felt very similar to me, and I guess I slightly leaned towards this one. Again, the opening challenge and talk were pretty fun. Daniel literally dislocates his shoulder, and then the immunity amulet thing is one of the craziest things I've ever seen on Survivor, covering themselves in fake blood.
Oh my god, are you bleeding?
Yeah.
And I loved hearing Jackson's story. It was really touching to me, which made it even sadder when he got pulled from the game due to the medical mix-up mishap. Unfortunately, like pretty much any of the new era premieres, I didn't really care for the in-between stuff. I'm just not too invested, especially on a rewatch here. And they sent home Zach, who I love, so that also sucks. Don't get me wrong, this is still a really good premiere that I could rewatch over and over. It's just the little in between things that I could go without. Stuck at number 17. Some call it the golden era of Survivor, but number 16 is nothing to scoff. Well, I'll be damned. Let's talk Survivor China. The episode is really good. First of all, the location is incredible, and I'm such a sucker for this cast, especially in the early parts of the season where more of the cast is actually here. Courtney is the biggest mood. I love that woman with all my heart. Leslie is so unserious at the greeting ceremony. Like, girl, get a grip. And whether you hate him or really hate him, John Robert is definitely a character. Blatantly threatening Todd to his face that he's the biggest threat on the first day, the first moments they're on their camp. And the scary part is that he was actually right in the end. Like, okay, John Robert, way to collect your only win of the entire season in the premiere. And of course, before I sign off from this episode, anything you want to say, chicken? Oh man, I love this show. Yeah. Hate the season all you want, people. I really enjoy this premiere. You will never change my mind. Survivor Worlds Apart, baby. It's Survivor Warfare. As much, and you and I may hate some of these people as, people, I think as characters, they all make this episode. God damn it, this dude Dan Foley is not real. So and Jacqueline make me audibly cringe every time they try to lie about picking the advantage with their great neutral box story. Mike ate a scorpion for some reason. I don't know why I actually mentioned that. That wasn't really necessary. Dan Foley, back at it again. The bamboo is hollow. It will not stay.
I am a fat guy. It's not going to hold.
Vince is really weird and kind of insane, but that's what makes it fun. Everyone is kind of insane. And of course, I couldn't forget about the star of this episode. It's Mama C, baby. All the other character moments are cute, but nothing compares to Carolyn calling out So.
What describes weakest? Because you opened a few knots?
No, that has nothing
how
to do with
exciting
it.
is opening knots?
I mean, she's just so good. And this episode alone proves that she deserves the second chance. I unapologetically loved watching this premiere episode. This episode needs no introduction. It's just simply iconic. Survivor All-Stars, they're back. I'm just a sucker for that badass intro they did at the beginning. Some of the most iconic players from Survivor's first 7 seasons are here together. It was unprecedented at the time and absolutely delivers in getting me all giddy. And then of course the interactions in themselves had me glued to my screen. On top of the reveal where everyone sees the other tribes and who's actually on the season with them, pure cinema. I could have done without the reveal 30 minutes into the episode, but it was still wonderful. The only reason this premiere doesn't enter the elite tier is because I think once that fairy tale pixie dust aura of watching these people play again wear off, it's kind of boring. Jenna is like so adamant on voting out the winners, which is valid, but I think the way she goes about it was weird. I don't know, kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And nothing else of note really happens, so it's so strong to start, but then a big roadblock hits, leaving it behind at number 14. One of the more recent seasons left on the board is just a feel-good season, and the premiere itself is very strong to kick it all off. Survivor, David versus Goliath appearances are deceiving. I just adore this season, and I adore this cast, so watching them interact was a lot of fun. And I'm such a sucker for this opening moment and challenge where the Davids take down the Goliaths. I love Christian with my whole heart. He is precious. And despite not too much happening gameplay-wise at all, this is purely so high because I'm just smiling the entire time I'm watching the episode. Mike White is great. Davey caught a damn octopus, for crying out loud. And then the end of the episode where a freak accident causes Pat to get evacuated is so tragic, and I do feel for Pat on many levels. It's heartbreaking. At the same time, that still adds to this episode for me. It's the most David thing to happen. I was heartbroken that it made me root for the Davids even more. Yes, I'm buying into that stupid and unfair theme of David vs. Goliath, and I own it. It's a fascinating episode that I think anybody would enjoy on a first watch to get them hooked into a season. Number 12 was an episode that did not slow down for a single moment, and for simpletons like me, I always appreciate that. It's Survivor Cambodia, second chance. A pattern you will see with some of these top placements is that I think the returning player seasons, for the most part, have really strong premieres, and that is fully based on seeing these people who have played before play again. And especially with this season, it feels surreal. Like, in what world are we seeing Kimmy, Savage, and Kelly fucking Wigglesworth play Survivor in the modern day? The rest of the episode was really fun and chaotic as well. The shelter people versus the beach people, aka old school versus new school. Abby is an absolute joy, starting shit over someone taking her bracelet. And despite everything that happens later, I know, Jeff Varner is a really great narrator this episode. I'm not putting to play what happens later. I know he's a shitty person. He sucks. I don't like him in any aspect of the word. But in this premiere, in this episode, as a TV character, I really thought it was fun. While also being the swing vote to blindside the shelter people, and Vetus is taken out in a really exciting first vote, there's not much else to say except that this episode is solid all the way around. I really love to see it. This season is infamous for a lot of things, but one of those things is that despite the season being despised, it has a very, very good premiere episode. I'm wrapping up the Dark Ages with Survivor Redemption Island. You're looking at the new leader of your tribe. This is pretty infamously known as a great episode of the show. The season may suck, but this episode is really good. Unfortunately, although I do really enjoy this episode, it's nearly in the top 10 for crying out loud. But I do think that I don't enjoy this episode as much as most other people. And that's just due to me not liking this cast very much at all. But I gotta give credit where credit's due. This episode definitely delivers. Rob versus Russell is obviously a fever dream. This was some petty reunion show clip turned into an actual season of the show. Then, of course, you have the Ometepe tribe. Philip Shepard will be Philip Shepard. And I always found it amusing that Philip was probably the most anti-Boston Rob person to start the season. Oh, where did we go wrong? And, of course, we cannot forget about how hard this tribal council carries this episode. Philip versus Francesca. Sorry, Francesca. No, that's not right. Francesca. I mean, that's all I really need to say. Other than Christina Ice Queen for not playing her idol, a 4-3-2 vote on the first episode? That is an insane vote, and I love every second of it. But obviously, I just don't like this cast very much, so that's the only reason that this episode isn't any higher than it already is. Into the top 10 is another season that isn't very well liked, but has so much going on I can't help but adore it. It's Survivor Ghost Island. Can you reverse the curse? The premieres that have 2 vote outs have always been stronger episodes to me, and this kind of proves it considering this is my lowest double boot premiere, and it's at number 10. Into the episode, there's a lot. We start the season with Chris Noble and Dominic starting their rivalry. Chris pulling the plug and Dominic openly disagreeing with Chris's decision. How did the season flop so bad after that? But the man of the hour was absolutely Jacob Derwin. He is a national treasure. I hate to break it to you, but the rest of my notes are all Jacob Derwin, so let me break down my favorite Jacobisms. Dumping the rice into his sock looking for an idol clue. Claims Malolo is one of the greatest tribes of all time. Sent to Ghost Island first and is safe from the vote. Jacob returns from Ghost Island and tells the entire tribe that he is an idol. That's a lie. Is very confident he's going to get sent to Ghost Island again, only for him to not, and then gets absolutely hosed by Stephanie into admitting his idol isn't real, only for him to get promptly voted out after that goddamn voting speech.
We have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Listen more.
It's so good. I love this episode so much. I just wish the rest of the season was at the same level as this premiere was. Number 9 is the most recent premiere of the show, at least from when I'm recording this, and I just adore it. My favorite new era premiere is Survivor 44. I can't wait to see Jeff.
All right, Carolyn, you ready?
So I'm just like talking?
Yeah, to me.
This was just a fun episode at every turn. If the new era is good at anything, they can make some entertaining opening challenges. Bruce gashing his head opening and staying in the game was really touching, only for him to get medevac 20 minutes later. But we're about to see Bruce again, and I can't complain that much. Matthew also managed to injure himself by falling off that big-ass rock. However, the real juice of this episode is, without a doubt, the Ratu mess. Let's break it down. Birdcage exists. Brandon finds the key. Brandon tells everyone. Brandon has a public idol. That's stage 1. Queen Claire exposes the details of Shipwheel, stupid place, island, whatever, to Matthew. Lauren is now the target. Maddie arrives and is like, are y'all stupid? Let's target the guy with an idol, silly gooses. And all of a sudden, Brandon is the target. That's stage 2. Tribal Council arrives. Jamie uses her shot in the dark. Matthew uses his shot in the dark. Lauren uses her bank of votes. And Brandon plays his idol. In a 2-to-1 vote, Maddie is sent home. That is a story in 3 parts. That is the most chaotic first vote in Survivor history. Do not at me. That is iconic, and you have to give respect to this premiere for keeping you on the edge of your seats at the very least, because it absolutely did for me. Number 8 is another returning player season, kind of a random one, but I do love this episode. It's Survivor Game Changers. The stakes have been raised. This doesn't have this badass cast or this epic entrance or anything like that. It's kind of a random cast, if I'm not gonna lie, but one man can make this episode. Love him or hate him, Tony Vlachos is entertaining as hell. He was only here for this episode, but he made the absolute most of it. Taking off for the idol right when everyone gets to camp, the spy bunker, actually aligning with Sandra Diaz-Twine, crawling through the sand in the dark, spying on Troyzan and Sandra, and then starting a feud with the Queen, only to be promptly blindsided.
And the queen stays queen.
You guys are suckers if
Now, I enjoyed all of it, and there's little moments that don't involve Tony that I also love. Cerie's return was so engaging to me and a lot of fun. Michaela is a gem. I love her. The only reason I didn't rank this episode higher is purely because the vote outs here don't give much of anything, especially the Sierra vote. It's so obvious Sierra is the boot, and I don't think it changed for 1 second out on that island. While I think this season starts so strong with Tony, it's not going to rank any higher than number 8 here. Adios. Pretty much the final classic season of the show, we have Survivor Pearl Islands coming in at number 7. The opening market barter challenge is my favorite first challenge in Survivor history. There's so much here, and it introduces this iconic cast in the best way possible. Rupert steals the Morgan Tribe shoes, the lady at the store wants Trisha's eyes,
In a sexual way.
and then it just keeps coming. Lil is unintentionally hilarious.
Hard to take off the scout hat.
And you can clearly tell why Rupert was a fan favorite, so incredibly likable at the start of the season here. And it just doesn't stop. The 3 Morgan men stripping down because Austin's shorts keep falling down, and the vote. The vote is, for what I believe the first time in Survivor history, is based off strategy, because Nicole is messy as hell and gets voted off because of it. There's nothing I really dislike about the episode in the slightest. It's just down to personal preference when I get to the top of this list, and the next 6 I like just a little bit more than this one. These top 6 are what I believe to be the top tier of the list. On any given day, I could easily put these in a random number generator, pick them out, and not think twice about the order of it. It just so happened that today, this is my number 6, and that's Survivor Micronesia. Guilty as charged, the initial shot of everyone reacting to the favorites is a complete joy, and Fairplay making his mark coming out as literally Jeff Probst.
I like to know that you have aspirations to get out of your current place in life.
The race for the idols, I tell ya, is so engraved into my brain. It's pure bliss. Pouring rain, 20 people racing through the water, and they weren't ready for linebacker Yowman from the top rope. Oh my god, he just... Johnny Fairplay absolutely deserved that. And then everything on the favorites is wonderful. 2 sides are instantly created, and Johnny fucking Fairplay is the swing vote. The swing vote, it's deplorable. Alright, I'm gonna be real with you. I have no idea what that word deplorable means, but I felt like saying it, so I said it. But unfortunately, the ultimate reason that this is at number 6 is Johnny Fairplay basically quits the game, which is shown on the show as him missing back home. But in actuality, if you don't know, it's because just before he got on the island, he got his jaw smashed at a WWE event. And was on medication. Obviously, being on the island, he can't be on those medications, and we were robbed of an absolutely electric first tribal that could have easily led this episode to being number 1. Unfortunately, it's just a what if for now, and we'll move into the top 5. Top 5. I think I'm a completely biased tool bag for this one, but it's my list. Let me be. Survivor Philippines. Survivor smacked me in the chops. Is top 5 worthy, people. I will forever love this premiere.
Before what happens? Before you gotta get off the boat, brother. You played this game before.
I just can't mention enough how much I love Jonathan Penner. And a big aspect of that is his interactions with Jeff. I don't know. This premiere is filled with so many characters I love. Russ Swan is perfect. An underrated character that I just feel for in every single moment he's on Survivor. And of course, Zane Knight. A gem sent down from who knows where to this earth to our TV screens. Let's talk through Zane's master plan. Makes an alliance with everyone on the beach. Check. Gets literally dragged during the immunity challenge because he just quit smoking before going on the island. Check. Throws himself under the bus, asking to be voted out for sucking at the immunity challenge. Okay, now I'm just kind of confused.
I'm playing chess the best way I know how, and hopefully, I'm gonna king me.
Oh, this is still the master plan. Alright, check. Banking on everyone loving him so much that they want to keep him in the game and send Russ Swan packing. Check.
Job spoken.
Oh. Come on, there's so much great stuff going on here. And I didn't even mention Abby Maria or Malcolm or Denise or anything like that. I love this premiere and it's top 5 for a reason.
If you ain't first, you're last.
4 years. Years, I tell ya. This was my definitive number 1. I've watched this premiere episode so many times, I don't think it's healthy. But when I did the full rewatch for every premiere, I don't think this premiere fell down in my rankings as much as I think the 3 above this moved up in my mind. And that is Survivor Heroes versus Villains. Slay everyone, trust no one. The season starts with that chopper scene. They literally only show the bee hat and the tie-dye, and we all instantly know who these people are. It's such an iconic cast and an iconic introduction to this historic season.
Google it. This time, I slay everyone and trust no one. But they won't. They never do.
You know, I'll lie. I don't care. But I'll make up a good lie.
I'm not like a mean gangster. I'm a nice gangster with a smile, you know?
The opening challenge is one of the more iconic ones, instantly physical, and so much happens. Coach drags Colby, Sandra undoes Sugar's top, Rupert breaks his toe, like all of that is in one single challenge. And all of these moments alone would be super iconic for a premiere, let alone all 4 happening. And I love that the show decided to dedicate a 2-hour premiere to just one single vote out. It gives so much more time to the characters, these players coming back that we love so much. It's a feel-good premiere, pretty much my comfort premiere that I watch over and over again. The only true reason it's not instantly number 1 is the vote out is pretty stale. It was setting up to be some really fun dynamics, but they decided to settle their differences on the heroes and take out Sugar. Pretty standard. Still an excellent television episode. It's number 4. My number 3 is more than likely the chalk pick, one of the first premieres you probably thought of when you think about the best premieres in Survivor, and yeah, it's amazing, excellent, magnificent. However, I still have 2 above it, and this is Survivor Cagayan. Hot girl with a grudge. Obviously, 2 insane blindside votes in this one premiere, and one of the best casts in Survivor history. It's amazing. Let me break down my favorite parts of this premiere. The less notable of the 2 blindsides is David Sampson, the man who chose Garrett as the weakest member on their tribe, which whatever buddy. And to top it all off, announces to everyone he's focusing on the last 2/3 of the game. Go off, I guess. And of course, with Garrett finding an idol and also being extremely petty, he pins a blindside onto David, voting him out in a 4-2 vote, which in itself is still a really great first vote, but there's so much more. And the second half turns this episode up 12 notches. One of the most elite hours of television. I have ever watched. First of all, the only non-Brain Tribe moment I will mention is Tony and his spy shack. It's great, we love it. But this isn't about you, Tony, let's move. Jatia, the nuclear engineer, completely blows the puzzle in the immunity challenge. Shanked it so damn bad. But I'm so happy she did because she gave us Garrett's open forum for the tribe. Everybody knows we're voting out Jatia, so nobody is allowed to leave camp until tribal. Cass and Tasha walk away and are pretty annoyed and talk about potentially flipping the vote to keep Jatia. As they are doing that, I repeat, as they are talking about keeping Jatia, Jatia is left alone at camp like she's some toddler and dumps out the entirety of her tribe's rice.
I was like the mental patient, and then you left the mental patient alone, and I went crazy.
Oh, and by the way, we head to tribal council, and that in itself is entertaining with Jatia versus Garrett, and then all the women versus Garrett. Oh, and by the way, they still blindside Garrett, who, by the way, had an idol, who, by the way, left that idol at camp instead of bringing it to tribal council. It's the most perfect ending to this train wreck of an episode and the best premiere vote out in Survivor history. The only reason that this isn't ranked any higher than it is the first hour and vote out is good, but not amazing, and doesn't hold my attention nearly as strongly as the other two premieres do for the entirety of their lengths. My top two, probably some pretty controversial top choices, but these are both up here for two very different reasons, and I'm here to justify them both for myself and to you all. My number two is a complete heart pick, an emotional pick. I obviously care about what I'm watching, but it's more about who I'm watching and why I'm watching for this premiere in particular. It's an all-out war, Survivor, winners at war, greatest of the greats. This was over a year and a half in the making. The peak of my Survivor fandom was finding out the 40th season is all winners. Finding out who this cast is. Tony Vlachos, Boston Rob, Danny Boatwright, Parvati Shallow, Ethan Zahn, Yul fucking Kwan. Just to name a few on my television screens in 2020. That never computed in my head until I actually saw it on the screen. And not to mention, I had a deep investment in Tony. I had no faith Tony would win again, but I just wanted to see Tony make a deep run and not flame out early. All of this has nothing to do with the actual premiere, by the way. That's how invested I was. This was the most anticipated I've ever been for a Survivor episode ever. I'm just so giddy. And I haven't even mentioned what I actually love about the episode. Oh my god. The opening scene. Obviously. Like 3 of the women fall out of the boat onto their ass. Jeff's weird accent.
Because a drink before war is always a good idea.
The reveal of the $2 million prize, the Poker Alliance, and outside of game things being brought up is so cool, and it really keeps the game transparent with pre-game connections. Sophie and Yul are the Nerd Alliance. My little nerd heart is so happy. Boston Rob pulls a Boston Rob and gets Ben to shit the bed and completely schooled by him. Adam being petty when his name is brought up was wonderful.
Rob and Amber's marriage.
And of course, Rob and Parvati's laughing chat on the beach, realizing they are aligned, and somehow in control of the first vote is every old school Survivor fan's dream scenario. And that's all just in the first hour. Electric for my taste as someone who is entirely too invested in all of these players. And while the second hour isn't as action-packed, I still really enjoyed myself. The DeKalb tribe scramble was very fun because it's realistic. 10 winners of the game are all fighting to gain control and stay alive, and names are flying everywhere. Seeing someone like Tony be calm until his name is brought up is classic Tony. And then Tyson going into defense mode, sacrificing Amber so he can stay in the game. This premiere is all bias, all heart, and all how I feel every time I look back at this episode. That's why it's this high. If you don't agree, that's completely fine, and I do understand why. I just hope you understand why I have so much love for this premiere episode. And at number 1, by process of elimination, you can probably guess what this one is. When going through my rewatch, I was hopeful that I would enjoy this premiere. I love this season, and I wanted to be able to express that in this ranking. I'm so happy to report that this was the only premiere I watched that I wasn't disengaged with for a single moment. Not for a minute was I not invested or entertained. And no other premiere did that for me, making this the number 1 pick. Survivor Gabon, baby. Want to see the elephant dung. This is the most chaotic, the most stupid, the most out-of-pocket premiere in Survivor history, and I thrive in it. Just hear me out and live through this nonsensical journey and why it's my number 1. The season literally starts with the classic schoolyard pick for tribes, and all the Fong members choose the worst possible people.
Okay, now we're playing Stupid Survivor, because this makes zero sense. Like,
is that not a sign this is going to be a wonderful disaster? Just to focus on Fong here, they are one of my all-time favorite tribes. GC has a massive shirt. That's it. Jillian and the elephant dung, it burns well. I promise she's not weird. Ken and Michelle are definitely something together.
It'll be hot if you do that. Everything that
Randy literally gashes his head open and has this comedically massive bandage on his head. I'm sorry. I need to make this my profile pic or something. Of course, Fong loses the challenge. What else are you expecting? And Michelle is literally so terribly bad at playing Survivor that they voted her out instead of Jillian, who's pretty much a complete tribe liability. The entire story of Fong is just unbelievable, is the best word I can say. These people are a complete mess together. And I love watching a good mess. To keep it going, GC is elected the tribe leader to try and get some positive things going for this tribe. But he literally quits being the leader the very next day. Fong gets absolutely throttled in the challenge once again. And Jillian is finally voted out. I'm sorry if I'm biased, but I adore this tribe. I love everybody here. And with that along with it, I adore this episode. I was smiling the whole time. That is where I will finally conclude my list ranking these goddamn Survivor premieres. That is a long list of me ranking all the premieres in Survivor US history. I'm so excited for Survivor 45. I'm in my Survivor groove. Big Brother who? Aside from that though, expect Survivor content, expect Big Brother content. At some point, I'm hoping to do this same list but with the Survivor finales. That will not be coming for a while, but trust me, it's definitely on the list and I definitely plan on doing that. Have a lovely day, all of you who made it to the end of this video, and I'll catch you all later. Bye-bye.